We've now arrived at the last tool we will use in this course, Power BI. Now, there are a lot of different data visualization platforms out there, so why have I selected this one? There are several reasons. First, all the tools we use in this class are ones you should have free access to now as a student, but also after graduation. There is other software we could have used for learning the ETL process and data visualization, but often these versions are free for students and then cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars annually for a subscription. So I want to teach you a tool that you can plan to use even after graduation. Second, Power BI integrates tightly with Microsoft products. The fact that you know how to transform data in Power Query is going to synergize very nicely with Power BI, as you'll soon see. But lastly, I think that this is the most relevant software, particularly for accountants. Tableau was the leader in the early 2010s, but Power BI has experienced rapid growth during the 2020s and currently has the largest share of the data visualization market. It's the tool of choice for all the Big Four accounting firms, so due to its prevalence, that's why this is the tool we're working with. And at this point, it is critical that you have access to a computer with a Windows operating system. You might have been able to accomplish some, but not all the things in Power Query on a Mac, but we've certainly reached that point where you need to have access to a PC to finish the remaining assignments of this class. You may already have Power BI installed on your computer, but if not, let me show you where you can download it for free. If you click the link at the top of this Canvas page, you should see something similar to this screen. And I want you to work with the desktop version of Power BI, so clicking this blue button will launch the Microsoft Store, where you should see an option to get Power BI Desktop for free. To be clear, this is not something you should be paying for. So if you need help getting Power BI installed, please let me know and I'll help you out. Go ahead and open an instance of Power BI Desktop. By default, you can always assume that we're going to create a new report, so go ahead and click this button. This has now created a new report for us to work with. And as you can see from the middle of the screen, our very first step is to connect to data sources. They prompt you with these 4 options here. You can similarly find them here in the home menu. But just to show you the wide array of data we can import into Power BI, I'm going to click Get Data from Another Source. You can see some of the usual file types at the top: Excel workbooks, CSV files. We can connect to a folder of files. But as we scroll down, this gives you an idea of the variety of databases and servers you can also connect to. For this initial example, I'm going to use a sample dataset that is already in Power BI. So we'll click this, Load Sample Data, and this screen should look pretty familiar to you. On the left, we can select a particular table or sheet from an Excel workbook, and on the right, we can preview what it looks like. If the data is ready to go, we can just load it. The Transform Data button should also look familiar. If we click that instead, it will launch Power Query. And you are now familiar with many different ways that we can manipulate this data prior to loading it. Essentially, in Power BI, you can do everything from the ETL process to creating visualizations. And just as an example, I'm going to create a new column and call it Unit Cost, which I will set equal to Cost of Goods Sold divided by Units Sold. Hit OK. You know we can change the data type up here. I'll set that to be a whole number. It looks like it'll be good. Again, this is just to give you an idea that we can do everything we did in Power Query in Excel here in Power BI. After making any changes we want, go up to Home. We can close and load the data, or as it says here, close and apply. We can now see our data query in this right-hand pane. Here we see the original table. I'll click this arrow, and down below are all the fields of the data set. These fields are going to be the building blocks that we use to construct visuals. We could connect to additional sources of data if we wanted to, and they would be displayed in this pane as well. In the next pane, we have visualizations. This is where we select which type of chart we want to build. And at this point, you're starting to become familiarized with which types of charts are best suited for different categories of data and analyses. The last pane is called filters. It might be collapsed initially by default. We can expand it out. You're already familiar with imposing filters in Power Query to restrict the data to the subset you want to work with. That's essentially what we'll be doing here, but for our visuals. We might have a vast data set we're working with, But for a given chart we're creating, we only want to summarize a subset of it. This is the area for imposing these filters, either on a single visual at a time or for all visuals on a page. On this left-hand side, there are different view options. The main one that we're currently on and are going to be in 99% of the time is called Report View. This is where we build our visuals. Next we have Table View, where we can look at the underlying data in tabular structure. If you are given a Power BI file with data already loaded in it, you might not know what all the different fields are, so you can toggle to Table View to do some basic data exploration and verification. Below this, we have Model View. In this class, you've been given a very basic introduction to relational data modeling, whereby primary keys in one table can be stored as foreign keys in another, and this facilitates a connection between tables. So if you're working with more than one table, we're not right now, we just have one, but if you have multiple related tables, you can manage those relationships here in this model view. The last one is pretty new to Power BI. It's called DAX Query View. You don't need to worry about this one for our class, but it's essentially a way to apply code to perform tasks using Power BI's DAX language. But again, that's beyond the scope of what we'll do here, so we won't be using it. I'll go back up to Report View. Now I want to give a basic introduction on how to create visuals. A very simple approach is to just click the checkboxes next to fields you want to explore. So going to our data pane, I'll click the box next to sales, and Power BI knows that this contains numeric data, and by default sums up this field and creates a column chart. I click the next checkbox, and it adds a column with the sum of cost of goods sold to the side of sales. You can always resize your visuals by clicking and dragging a corner here. The next field is a categorical variable, country. After I click it, the various country names have been added as an axis to this column chart. It now displays sales and cost of goods sold by country. And we can see that they're fairly similar figures, but given the sorting, we appear to do the most business in the United States. Another important thing to note is you can hover over individual elements of these charts and get additional detailed information. The actual level of sales in the US is roughly $25 million. All of these fields that we've selected now appear as inputs in the visualization pane. Two fields have been included in our y-axis, with country as our x-axis. Now we can change what type of chart is being displayed by clicking different options in the Build Visual tab of the Visualizations pane. For instance, instead of clustering these columns side by side, I could stack them, stacked column chart. I'm not sure that it makes too much sense to do this. I don't know how to interpret adding sales and cost of goods sold together, but I could click the next option, clustered bar chart, and this would bring back my original chart type just with a horizontal orientation. Most people would call any of these bar charts, but in Power BI, they uniquely call bar charts those with this horizontal orientation. If they're vertical, they're labeled as column charts. Notice down here in my inputs, the axes have now flipped, but Power BI has accommodated this change seamlessly. While it was really quick to build it from scratch from clicking these buttons, I think it's best if you first know what kind of chart you want and then provide required inputs. So let's start over. I'm going to click outside of this selected visual in this white space, and I'm going to build this same visual from scratch. I'll start by clicking clustered bar chart. I'll drag this up here. For my y-axis, I'll click and drag the country field to y-axis and bring sales and cost of goods sold, again clicking and dragging, to the x-axis. We can resize it if we want. Power BI knows that these charts are based on the same underlying data. So when I select a bar in one chart, it emphasizes the same data in the other visual. That may not seem super useful for now, but when we construct a dashboard later, you'll see how this can be a cool feature. The last thing I'll show you is how to impose filters. With this chart currently selected, the filters pane is automatically populated with all the fields that we use to construct this visual. Country, sales, cost of goods sold. I can go up to country, click this drop down arrow to expand it, and now I can restrict the chart to present only a subset of countries. Let's do those that are in North America. We can additionally impose numeric filters on these quantitative fields. Even more, we can impose filters using fields that weren't even used to construct this visual. There are three main categories of filters we can impose. Those that are specific to this individual visualization. We can impose filters for all visuals on this page, or if we had multiple pages down at the bottom, we can impose a report level visual that applies to all visuals on all pages. Maybe I want to look at these financial amounts for only certain months of the year. I didn't use any date related fields to create this bar chart, but I can drag and drop month name to filters on this page where it says add data fields here. I'll scroll down and I can select December to see what performance looked like during that month. Very quickly, we can see that Canadian sales dominated in December. And notice this filter has been applied to both charts on the screen. So that was our basic tutorial introducing ourselves to Power BI's interface. In the next video, we will get to work building a variety of different visuals and considerations we should take into account with each.